Start with the civility and respect pledge. Civility and respect should be at the heart of public life, and good governance is fundamental to ensuring an effective and well-functioning democracy at all levels. The intimidation, abuse, bullying and harassment of councillors, clerks or council staff in person or online is unacceptable, whether by councillors, clerks, council staff or public members. Any person adjudged by the chair of the meeting to have breached this rule may be asked to apologise, withdraw their statement and or leave the meeting.
Something's happening.
Yeah.
Yes, what is it?
Come on, you know that.
Oh, no.
Not me.
It's coming from right here, isn't it?
Oh, it's my bag, sorry.
Your bag, sir.
I'll deal with this bag.
I've heard the mayor has a very empty swear jar.
Oh, it's my, don't laugh. It's an alarm to tell me
Tell you
to
the meeting's on.
Oh, you to turn your phone on to silent.
I don't know why.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
All right, let's carry on. So, public participation. Chris?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. On the completion of the Bude Canal regeneration project in about 2010, there was an agreement that there should be a management group. And that, when it started, it was twice a year. But since Cornwall Council has taken over as the owners of the canal, or some of it, it's dropped back to being once a year, usually in the spring. So at the moment, I've not had any notification, usually by text. I haven't spoken to the councillor of the board, so hopefully he's going to chase it up. The important thing is it's not, the town council would have representation, you can have an oversight, you would have representation. I also used to represent the IWA, but I'm not involved with them anymore. But there are all sorts of landowners, riparian owners, fishing club and all the rest of it. So it's quite an important thing because you can ask difficult questions, ask the harbour master. Sometimes you're lucky and you get the marine manager who come all the way up from Truro, I think he's called Chris Jones. So it's just something that needs to be in luck to, but hopefully Mr. LeBroy will put some salt on the tail because you really don't want to lose that because we all know how important it is to the, as they say, tourist infrastructure of our town. So if someone could G that up a bit, I'd be obliged. Thank you.
Now, I was just leafing through my emails desperately. The last Bude Valley Management Advisory Group took place on the 19th of May last year.
That's right.
So I suspect that the meeting is deemed now to be an annual meeting with some of the other stakeholders invited. So I would say the next meeting would be imminent, but I have not yet had sight of a date or agenda.
If they have it in the beginning of May this year, instead of going to the Isle of Man in June to see my eldest daughter, I'm going in May for some reason or other, so I might miss it, but I'll have to wait and see.
Well, I've made a note in my book to ask.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. Gentleman next to Chris.
Nothing to
Okay. Thank you. In that case, we'll move on. Receive apologies and accept the reasons for any non-attendance. I think we're all here, aren't we? Excellent. To receive any declarations of interest on items on the agenda and agree any dispensations. Nothing. Okay. To receive the Mayor's report. Just like last month, I have actually not attended any official functions this month, so we will move swiftly past the Mayor. To note any reports from Cornwall councillors.
I just had a couple of Stratton related things. Tom kindly organised another meeting with the residents was that a couple of weeks ago? Feels like a long time, but it wasn't really. It was quite well attended, and there were quite a lot of heated discussions about the car park and the shop, as you might expect. And the other issue which came up was around, and obviously related to the car park, but the overall concern around traffic and parking in Stratton, and particularly on Union Hill, where there have been a few accidents recently and concern about emergency vehicles. And I've arranged for the highways manager to come and do an inspection in a couple of weeks' time to have a look at that. And I think the only other item is the ongoing problems on the Shorelands estate with roadworks and everything else, and trying to get some progress on that. And that's about it, really.
Okay, thank you. Peter?
Thank you. Do you know, I started making a list thinking I'd only have one or two things, and I got a whole load of things. So I'll do them as quick as I can, if you'd like me to. I wanted to just mention potholes, because that is mentioned an awful lot. I've been speaking to Dan Rogerson, who's the cabinet member for highways, and Dan has been working hard to try and resolve the issues with the amount of potholes that we have, and we have got more potholes this year than ever before. And it was really interesting because the highways network manager puts it down to the amount of rainfall that we've had, and he provided us with a plot of rainfall which almost exactly matches the plot of recorded potholes throughout Cornwall. It's incredible. When I asked why we had so many potholes, I was told that because of the way that we are using more and more partially porous tarmac, it allows the water to get into it much more. And the reason you use partially porous tarmac is because it drains the water away, it makes the road safer and avoids them getting too wet and slippery. But they're looking quite hard about the mixes and what they're actually making the roads out of to try to avoid the problems going forward. One of the reasons they haven't been able to fix the potholes as quick as we would all like is the ongoing wet weather. Unfortunately, it's dry now, and they are catching up. But you can't really do a successful job of laying tarmac and fixing potholes when it's wet, because the stuff just doesn't stick very well. So that's that. Sandpiper Way, I've mentioned before, we have some houses, a range of different tenures of affordable houses, and this is directly behind the B&M site. Of the 20 houses there, 12 of them are old-fashioned council houses. The remaining 8 are shared ownership. I was hoping that we would have had delivery of most of those 12 houses by now. In fact, they've missed, I think, 3 or 4 deadlines. But the home choice applications have been opened up as of last week. So people that want a council home can now apply for them. They're going to be released in 2 tranches. And I've been amazed at the amount of applications. I shouldn't be amazed, really, but amazed at the amount of applications. And I did a little social media piece saying, get your applications in. And the amount of people that have contacted me privately to ask me to help them escalate their case has been astonishing. Incidentally, I can't escalate their case. It's all needs-based and factual-based rather than opinion. The harbour, I spoke to the harbour master this afternoon just before coming down just to check. In the next 10 days, they're going to begin sand clearance, the annual sand clearance out of the lock chamber. All of the potential lock-in dates have been published. The harbour financially didn't do too badly last year. It ended up with a deficit of £5,000 against a planned deficit of £6,000, so it was within £1,000, or it was at the right side of £1,000 of their planned budget. He did tell me that over this winter, £50,000 has been spent on breakwater repairs, and that they are trying to go forward with the in-depth surveys, which I've mentioned before, which will come. I'm not sure whether they're going to be funded or worked through the Future Coast Bude project, but certainly Rhys Hobbs, who was instrumental in putting that project together, will be working with the harbour master to begin that process of getting the in-depth surveys. Fire station, you might remember there's a debacle about parking and some cars receiving parking tickets on there. I think we've sorted that out, but there either is or will be a planning application coming forward fairly shortly to build an extension to the side of the fire station. Now, I absolutely understand the need for the extension on the side of the fire station because they need extra room to provide facilities for all sexes. But I'm concerned that if they build a hard building there, that it will financially weld them to that site for too long, because they will have to amortise it over 15 or 20 years. We do have an alternative potential site for them in Bude, and I'm working really hard to try to get them to not do a hard build and do something temporary on that site whilst they reconsider and escalate the project on the alternative site. I'm happy to talk to anyone outside this meeting about that. I've complained about the zebra crossings at Ben Coolen, not due to the location, but to the camber of the pavement, because people who are using pedestrian scooters are feeling very unsafe because of the camber. And we are trying to do something about that, but I've had some very silly answers that I don't want to say in public, but I'll say in private to any one of you. But we are going to be commencing some repair work or improvement work to reduce the level of slope on the pavement there very shortly. The 20-mile rollout for Bude will start in June. I think, Faye, you were involved in that email trail, so you would have saw it. Yeah. You might have even instigated that email trail, I think. I was waiting for you to say it. So we have confirmation that the reduce. I thought all of Bude was going to become 20 miles an hour, but it's effectively just the very central parts of it. Hopefully you'll have all seen the mapping of it, but that works will start fairly shortly. I want to talk very briefly about the Widmouth car park and the treatment the Future Coast Bude are giving to it. I was astonished and quite unhappy when I saw it. I think I made that very clear at the meeting we had last week. That is purely my opinion, and I have to say my personal opinion. And of course, this is a council and the community, so we need to take opinions of all to come to a position on this. But I certainly will be lobbying for that same treatment not to be happening at Crooklets. Coming up, I've got a lovely visit to the sewage works at Hill Bridge on the 16th of April. We've got full council on the 21st of April. And anyone that listens to Radio Cornwall might be pleased to know that I'm going to be doing the phone-in on housing on the 29th of April. And then it's May. Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the Widmouth Clay project's got anything to do with Future Coast Bude. It's a Cornwall Council run project.
We had a meeting with them this week.
But we've got a Future Coast Bude representative here. I'm pretty sure it's got nothing to do with Future Coast Bude.
Yes, Widmouth is nothing to do with Future Coast Bude, and neither is Breakwater, actually.
Well, yeah, Future Coast Bude is Bude, obviously.
So I'm happy to be corrected
or whatever they're called.
Both of those. What the point that I'm trying to make is I don't want the equivalent treatment, personal opinion, to happen at Crooklets that has been given to Widmouth.
Again, can I just, I agree with that, but I think we've got to be careful that if we're going to say stuff, that especially if it's
he said making way for sand, it would have been.
It would have been more appropriate.
Because it is purely a Cornwall Council project and nothing to, and so I think it's an important distinction to make before we start conflating things together that aren't necessarily in the same place.
Thanks. Accepted.
Yeah, I'd take Tony's point that we shouldn't conflate stuff, but everybody outside of this room does conflate stuff, and they conflate not just Future Coast Bude and making space for sand and the Environment Agency and Cornwall Council provision. They also conflate Widmouth and Bude and the planning that happened with the skate park facility. And whatever we think, and however neatly we understand how these things work, people outside this room don't. And I think that we know that, and Cornwall Council know that, and the fact that the actions took place at Widmouth without this council being fully informed of what was going on in the way, and without, in my view, good comms going out about that until after the event, has caused problems for Future Coast Bude and indirectly has caused problems for everyone sitting around this table. Now, I speak as somebody who is broadly supportive of everything that's happening, including broadly supportive of what's going on out at Widmouth. But the kind of non-joined up thinking which has happened does cause problems. And I despair sometimes of the way that these projects operate independently when there is a bigger picture to look at.
Okay, well, we're debating this as item 10. So I think we'll leave it there. I think, just to pick up on your point that we weren't consulted, it's actually outside of our parish, but I am interested to know whether Poundstock were consulted. Did you consent to it?
No, it wasn't formally, we weren't formally.
So that's indicative of how the local parish there were treated. So it's not.
There was consultation, but not a formal.
Yeah.
Council didn't need planning permission or anything.
No. Okay, if it's on this, we're going to hold it till 10, all right? Because we're just going to do the same debate twice otherwise. So that's the end of Cornwall Council's. Yeah. So to receive any updates from Bude-Stratton Town Council committee chairs, I'm going to allow you to speak on something you contacted me here as well. So.
Okay, yeah, it was. I was a bit surprised. I have to say that, as I'm sure you all recall, I was opposed to terms of reference for the meet councillor sessions because I feel they should all be informal and whatever. But it was approved, so I always stick to it. And paragraph 6 mentions reporting back to the full council. So therefore, I was surprised that there wasn't an agenda item to report back to the full council on that week, the council session.
We can introduce a new item or take it under this.
I'm sure Sullivan contacted me and I said item 7 was the right one for it.
I'm just making the.
If you want us to split this into 7 and 8, we can, but I'm quite happy to allow it here.
Yeah, thank you. I was just making the point that to start off with. But following on from Henry, thank you for attending, and thank you, Councillor Pellery, for attending the meeting council session. It was 2 weeks ago on Saturday, and not surprisingly, I was kind of approached it with a certain amount of trepidation, but it wasn't, I suppose, too bad. It was enjoyable. I just felt it was important to go back and look people in the eye and say what I suppose the point about it all really was that even if we had voted to narrowly, and it would have only ever have been narrowly, to go the route of borrowing to refurb, etc., I had to, looking at the big picture over the last 3 years, it was clear to me that the heart of the council as a corporate body wasn't in this project. And for projects to succeed, such as Compass Point, it takes, everybody to be on board really. And it was clear that, and with a certain amount of disappointment, I have to say that there were councillors who, I wasn't on the council when the property was bought, but felt it my duty to do everything I could to see if it could be made to work, because the council that did buy it was actually democratically elected. But for me, it was, and I'm obviously not going to point fingers, but to 3 years on, to constantly hear we should never have bought it, it's told me enough to know that, this was always going to be the case. If we were to go down the route to try and borrow, actually just to try and borrow, it wouldn't be guaranteed. So I did try to explain this at Stratton the other day, that, there comes a point when you have to say that this project is not going to succeed because for one reason or because if the council isn't heartened in it. And it was actually slightly similar to the Hill Valley Trail project, because when I made the recommendation that this council should withdraw from it, it wasn't a vote of his on the project itself. It was that this council wasn't going to be, this council's involvement was not going to be conducive to a successful project. And that's a bit, I have to say, a bit sobering. when a small council can take it on, but and successfully. So that was the main explanation for whatever. The car park, as Councillor Emery said, came up. So we've already initiated the possible devolution process of exploring devolution of that one to the council. So I hope we can at least give that one a sympathetic examination and whatever. And the other thing was the toilet. There's the toilets in Stratton. It was felt that these are more than surplus to requirement and are possibly costing money that could better be put to better use. People use it.
Yeah. Obviously, they weren't happy with those of us that voted to sell it. Do you mind if I ask what they thought about you abstaining on such an important vote? Well, I've had a little bit of feedback on that.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I did get, private, and that's one of the reasons why I went there, was to sort of like, if people wanted to kind of throw it at me, then throw it at me. I'm happy to explain my position.
Did anyone?
There was one person who was quite the usual suspect, let's say, who was was finger wagging and saying, if you had voted this way, if you had voted that way, and like I say, it was the big picture. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I got a few.
If I ask what comments were made to you?
I just received a couple of comments along the lines that, to paraphrase, somebody that had put so much investment in trying to get the project done at the moment of, sort of critical, didn't do anything.
Well, that's a very simplistic way.
But yeah, I'm basically paraphrasing, but they were very disappointed that the person who bigged up keeping the building on the most important vote of this term, quite possibly, didn't vote. So there was some disappointment there, basically, Tom. And I replied that it was better to talk to you, and I just wondered if anybody had turned up and asked.
Not really. And if anybody is listening, I hope they've heard what I've had to say and understand that you have to make a decision based on all.
I think that was their complaint, was you have to make a decision, and you didn't, Tom. I think that's the essence of their complaint.
And fine, that's their it would have made no difference to the outcome of it all. I abstained because I felt that the council should have made should have pursued it, but on the other hand, it was clear that it wasn't. This was never going to be a success. So I'm disappointed about, obviously, but if anybody wants to if you want.
Yeah, that's basically my message to them was you are always available in Stratton. Go and talk.
Yeah, so if they want to, or contact me directly.
Yeah, sure. It was not me having a go. I just wondered whether anybody had actually followed my advice, which was to go and meet you at that session.
Yeah.
I think the person that was asking about Union Hill, you've referenced that, so they obviously took my advice and came along to see you. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I think Tony and...
Do you want to go first, or are you just going to add to...
Thanks, Tony. Just to make a couple of comments about the meeting. I thought we're all big boys and girls, our shoulders are broad enough, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But I thought Tom was being dug out unfairly, and I said so at the meeting, that Stratton had a very strong advocate in Tom, and if anyone was going to be got at the meeting, it should be me, because I voted in favour of selling it. People didn't take that opportunity, but I thought Tom was taking a lot of heat at the meeting unfairly. The other point I would make, and it's about the car park, that's going to be a hot potato as well, but we're all aware of that, and there'll be a lot of emotions around at the same time.
Yeah.
That was actually my question, was relating to the car park, really, and the next sort of Stratton hot potato. And having been in the room now with people with that topic coming up, what was your view of their opinion relating to that? Because I've seen a lot of stuff go backwards and forwards. I'm just interested.
My personal view is that Stratton will want us to take it on, but there will be a lack of realism about expecting us to take it on for nil costs and to refresh it, renovate it, etc. My cautionary note about the entire thing is that I think Cornwall Council may try to bundle a lot of things together, and that will become very unattractive to us in terms of the overall package. So we have to be, I think, very careful about not setting false expectations in Stratton. We've got to be very realistic. There are issues about long-term parking. There are issues about difficulty of parking in Stratton, but equally there are issues about difficulty of parking in areas of Bude as well, and the fact that people have to pay in Bude to park. So I think it's going to be a real hot potato. I just caution us about setting too many unattainable expectations early on.
Just to respond to that, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's an expectation management exercise to be done, I think, along with Cornwall Council. I don't know what the view is in relation to, are we going to give this to a committee to manage? And if so, which committee would that be? Because it feels like we should be. Based on what you were saying, it sounds like, I've seen the response from Cornwall Council. I think that needs to be reviewed by a committee, whichever one that is.
I think it's already been raised at C&D, isn't it?
Has it? Are we giving ownership of it? To be clear, because I think it's important for us as well as council to be clear that who we expect to be managing that on our behalf, and how they're going to, what the reporting process is, and what the lines of communication, importantly, the Cornwall Council is, and how we're going to do that. So I think it is important that we do this early, or we think about that process early, so that we can manage those expectations appropriately. Otherwise, we're in danger of falling into the same trap as we had before, and I'd hate for us to do that.
But I think C&D is the right place for it, and probably a working group thereof. Yeah. I forgot what order I said. I think it was Kevin, Peter, then.
Yeah. For once, I'm not going to talk about Lord's Court. I think that decision is made. We draw a line. We move on. My position is what it always was. We lost on the night, and I don't think there's any more to be said from that side of the argument. As chair of F&E, just to add something into the mix around the car parks, it was also raised at C&D. The idea of a levy that we could ask Cornwall Council to charge on our behalf to go towards the maintenance, the ongoing costs of the public toilet provision, that the door is open on that, and we are making overtures to Cornwall Council and trying to get that established. So it could well be that we will be asked to make a decision as to whether we want there to be an additional levy, and it will be on us. It will be a levy that is effectively charged or collected by Cornwall Council, but will then be paid to us specifically to compensate or go some way towards the public toilet provision. So that, I think, was something from F&E that we all need to have our own thoughts about.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about some basic principles here, if I may, very quickly. The Cornwall Council, as we all know, has been complaining for many, many years that delivering statutory obligations such as children's care and adult social care, the costs are rising almost out of control, demand is rising almost out of control, and the activities and engagements that Cornwall Council does that are non-statutory are likely to diminish as time goes on. And things like car parks, if they're not making any money, are things that Cornwall Council won't be particularly interested in. Now, for my money, I mean, I've got a very simplistic view of this. I visited the car park on a fairly regular basis to do various different things that are going to Stratton. But I remember very specifically last Armistice Day when I went to The wreath laying ceremony, and I arrived in the car park at I think 9 o'clock, so it's a 9:30 ceremony, and the car park was full. I couldn't park anywhere. And I don't want to claim any right to park in the car park, but I was taken aback and I was a bit surprised. And the simple fact was that probably at that particular point in time, 40, maybe 50% of the space was taken up by great big white vans that looked like they hadn't moved very much for quite a long time. So I believe the car park does need management. Now, the basic principle that I want to put to you, Mr. Mayor, is that sometimes strategic decisions are unpopular. Right. However, I think it's our responsibility to take leadership, because I'm telling you, Cornwall Council will not be able to do that. And if we want to help Stratton residents to manage that community, we might have to take some unpopular decisions, but I'd be very willing to sit down with Tom and any other councillors and any of the residents in Stratton to start talking about some longer term strategies for Stratton and the way this council faces Stratton.
They made us pay to use the Crescent car park now night times. There's a charge on that one now after 6 o'clock.
You haven't got a car.
Not the people of Bude, not myself, but the people of Bude. Yeah. They used to drive down of evening. You could have a walk up the canal, down around the locks. You've got to pay to park now. Why should Stratton be different?
Just my own awareness as well, Peter, what time scale are we thinking about here from your perspective, from a Cornwall Council perspective?
I think they're looking at 12 months because there was a 12-month review period set for all the car parks that have just come into the charging.
Right.
Well, if it comes into devolution, you'll remember how painful it was getting the skate park devolved to us. So there's no real time frame that you can promise.
No, again, it's just about management of expectation and thinking about, for us as a town council, how we would set up that communication and what we need to put in place. Because I agree with you, I think you're right. I think we've got to grasp the nettle one way or the other, but we want to do it in an effective way, managing that expectation and thinking about what it means for us and how much time we've got to do that properly, I think is the key bit. Okay, fine.
Councillor, that question, from what I'm aware, devolution requests are assessed on a 3 monthly basis. So whatever is in is assessed. So yeah, and just to clarify, when I mentioned about car parks at the start, or the House Bridge car park at the start, I wasn't, when I said devolution, I that was possibly a bit simplistic, and absolutely, Councillor Roy and is right. You know, if this is going to happen, it isn't, oh yeah, we'll take on the car park and that's it. There needs to be a lot of work put in beforehand, and managing expectations, yes, because there is this issue of the overnight parking, and it quite possibly, it will be unpopular with certain sections, let's say, but that was one thing about the House Bridge car park, was that there are sub opinions or conflicting opinions even within Stratton about that one, which possibly aren't there with other car parks. So that was one thing. The other thing I was going to say, and very briefly on the issue of how I voted or didn't vote, I noticed that, and sorry, I know, but the election, by-election coming up in Stratton, as one of the candidates is here, there was nobody from the Stratton side of the 839 put up for election. There was only 3 of us put up for 6 seats 12 months ago. So individuals who might want to criticise the way some of us vote may want to, and I have said repeatedly at Stratton, you need to engage with the democratic process. This is how it works. It's got its huge failings, but it is the only one we got.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think the people living actually in Stratton, hands up, who around this table does. There we go. And therein lies the problem. They keep. Yeah. I agree with you entirely. Our voice isn't being heard. Well, you've got 6 open seats here, and none of you are sat in them. So,
I live in the councillor division of Stratton.
Yeah.
And
so do I. Yes.
Yeah.
We do have to make that distinction, but
within the ward, but the actual people of Stratton.
say Stratton on your address, does it?
Yeah, so do you want me to go back to the agenda item, which was the chair's?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be brief on this one again, or I'll try to be. It was, as Councillor Roy especially will recall, I've been very vociferous in sort of lamenting the shortcomings of neighbourhood development plans, etc. And but there was a very significant, or there is a very significant planning application, as we all know, at Burn Park, and that was one where the planning committee was very vocal, or strong in its objection on the basis of the closing of the gap between Flexbury Puffle and Bude-Stratton. And it was, while it was holiday units rather than residential units, it was still going to mean development. It would close the gap between Flexbury Puffle and Bude-Stratton. The applicants revised their planning up. It was initially, I think 82 units. They reduced it down anyhow, and very often when they make revisions, they get passed and whatever. And but it was a hybrid planning application, which made it complex and challenging. And eventually, anyhow, the planning officer recommended that the part of the planning application, which was for full planning application, would involve the additional 5 units that didn't already have planning permission. The rest was outlined, which was initially for 82 units, I think it was, or was there more? But anyway, they reduced that one down. So the planning officer, much to my amazement, was very pleased to see that the planning officer was recommending that the full planning could go ahead with the addition of the 5 units, but that the outline, which involved, even though it had been reduced, would add 42 units and would significantly close the gap. That was recommended for refusal. But of course, because it was a hybrid one, this, that and the other, we were given the opportunity to call it into committee. But I won't go into that too much. But what I was so pleased about to see was that the planning officer actually referred to the, used as justification, policy 3C of our neighbourhood development plan, which proposed maintaining that gap. So hopefully it's been sorted out with the help of Councillor Emery, and but of course there is also always the possibility of an appeal.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Coalescence, that's the one, yeah.
Any other reports from committee chairs? In that case, we'll move.
Sorry, I'll say nothing further to add from me. It's already been touched on, really.
Yeah.
And car park, so.
Okay, cool. Right, we'll move on to the minutes. To approve the minutes of the previous full council meeting on the 12th of March 2026. I propose we approve them. Seconded, all in favour? Committees, to receive and note the minutes of the committee meetings below. Planning on the 18th of March 26. Seconded, all in favour? F&E, 19th of March. Seconded, all in favour? Corporate and Democratic on the 26th of March. I'll second it, all in favour? To approve the finance reports, the schedule of payments made on the 27th of March to the 6th of April 26.
I just enjoyed seeing that we've purchased, I think, was it a spring for 36p or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just have a question that I see on here, the environmental health officer inspection at the castle. Does this mean that the castle has now completed everything finally on the environmental health officers, that it's all passed through?
So there was an initial inspection and
Back in August last year.
and some recommendations made for things that we could improve. And so those have now been put in place. And there was a pre-inspection that took place yesterday, I think it was, which was satisfactory. And then the inspector's going to come out again and re-inspect just to make sure everything's fine. So I'm not entirely sure what that payment refers to. It might be to the initial payment or
If it's
to paying for the revisit.
After I get,
Yeah.
do we have to pay for a revisit?
if you request it, yeah.
It was needed because we weren't 100% speed with all of our measures.
Yeah, because originally the castle was not allowed to proceed with what needed doing because of the fact that the business plan was being considered and spending was not wanted at that time in case the business plan said to change everything.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if I
Yeah, yeah.
respond to that. Yeah, so it was because initially what the report said and what we were presented with was that we needed a new kitchen to be able to repass the EHO inspection. And that was what was asked for. And that was why, as a committee, we said, no, we're not going to spend that money to do a new kitchen yet, because we don't know what's going to happen with the audit and the business case. As it turned out, money didn't really need to be spent. I think very minimal money needed to be spent on just a fly screen. Everything else was fixed, and it was just a matter of moving things around. Everything was completed, and yeah.
It seems to me that it's August last year and it's March now and we've only just done it.
I think we gave them till March for the EHO to come back, so everything has been done for a while. We were just waiting for the EHO to return. So yeah, that was it. It was nothing more than that. The cafe manager and the team did everything within plenty of time, and we were literally just waiting for the EHO to come, and he gave us a certain amount of months, which was March. So yeah, that was it. Yeah. Thank you.
You want to go?
What's this future coast Bude expense?
Right down the bottom.
I'm trying to work out who this Vincent Palmer is.
I'm going to do that.
Oh, it's at the bottom.
Yeah.
There's 3 times, I think.
I couldn't say. It's more helpful if we could receive the queries about the payments beforehand so that I can check with the RFO. But we have a very well-established system in place for dealing with finances with Future Coast Bude. So all of our expenses are reimbursed, including our officer time.
Oh, that's all right.
We submit our invoices to Future Coast Bude and they very promptly pay it.
Just couldn't work out why it's always £6.
I couldn't answer that without looking into it in detail.
Okay.
Yeah, just a minor thing. We have Sweb at home, and you have British Gas for everything. I didn't know British Gas dealt with electricity.
Yeah.
On here.
Okay.
No, can I change at home?
Yes. You better ask Mary first, Hills.
I was just intrigued.
Okay, Vicky.
Yeah, I was just, excuse me. Excuse me. I was just going to ask, would it be possible, because we don't have a financial committee at the moment, that if it's possible with things like particularly Future Coast Bude, that we got a report at some time that gave the expenditure we've spent out and showing us where we've got the money back.
That would be possible. I think I was going to.
That would allay a lot of.
You've already mentioned it. But generally, when dealing with this, you email in your question or you phone the office in advance. You get the answers to all of your queries about the finances, and we come here happy to tick it off. Rather than, it's a big ask for anyone from memory to deal with a budget of millions, getting hot questions over the table. So this isn't specific to you, it's everybody. If you have questions on finances, do the staff a favour, email it to them well in advance of the meeting and give them a chance to actually research the answer. But yes, in answer to your question, we could, but please do it in advance. This came out last Thursday. You could have asked any, and I'm talking to everyone, all of these questions could have been fired in on Monday, giving the RFO time to get a detailed response, rather than expecting one member of staff who's not the RFO to just magic the answers. Going forward, could we please keep that in mind? With that in mind, are we happy to approve the schedule of payments?
Yes, I'd like
Between the 27th of March and 6th of April. I will propose that we do. All in favour? Thank you. Against? Abstain? Have to be. Schedule of payments to be made on the 7th of April 2020. I second it. All in favour? Against? Abstain? The reviewed debts owed by and owing to Bude-Stratton Town Council and agree any associated actions.
Forgive me if I'm wrong, have we not dealt with this already?
There was two that we deferred.
Oh, okay. Is that these ones here?
Which,
yeah. Okay, right, fine. Sorry, because I was confused by that.
Yeah. There were two big ones that we sent them off to dig into.
That's fine.
Kevin.
Yeah, it is no secret, or it shouldn't be a secret, that there was errors, we'll put it like that, and we didn't get paid for cutting the grass in 3 accounting cycles. And that amounts to quite a large amount of money, of the order of £34,000. It is deeply regrettable, and having sat down with the RFO to speak about this, I think it did fall between the cracks when the previous clerk and RFO was leaving. COVID played a part. Cornwall Council, I think, weren't as helpful as they could have been, but that is a personal opinion. The great reality is this council hasn't been paid £30,000 and will not be paid that money. So this is a accounting procedure that's been recommended by our external auditor to square the books, to swallow the loss and to move on. It will not affect the finances of this council as far as the current financial year is concerned, but it is something that I've been assured will not be happening again. But it did fall partly within my watch as chair of F&E. I've queried that. I've also queried how we account for things in our budgets, and I think we do need to look at that in the future, because we cannot just take a sort of invoice or an expected income as being an actual income. I think it does need to be flagged up more clearly to committee where we haven't got the money in that we expected to get in. And I think that there are some aspects of the weeds of this that we still haven't quite got to grips with in our accountancy moving forward. But my concern, insofar as understanding what this deficit amounts to, or what this write-off amounts to, that's gone away. F&E have discussed it and have recommended that as a council that we write this debt off.
Let me get this right before I get it all wrong. Our council, boys, cut grass and trim the edge up where I am and that, and Cornwall Council pay for it.
Yes.
But Cornwall Council didn't pay for it.
That's the long and the short of it. Yeah.
That's okay then.
Yeah.
I pay for that, so I'm now getting I want money back from Cornwall Council.
Then go and talk to the chair of another meeting.
They're the biggest bunch of crooks out. They charge me every week for grounds.
Careful, please, Councillor Jennings. I've had enough emails about your
That's life, but it's true. They charge every week council tenants 22 pence for grounds, what the hell is it? Grounds maintenance.
Yeah.
And 2p fee for managing it all. So that's 24 pence a week they charge me. On top of my rent, not including my rent on top.
Okay, we are diving wildly off topic here, but
They're not paying the money out the other end, and I'm not going to pay them the 24 pence anymore. I just holding me money back.
you could update us on that next month.
Yeah, no problem. What a bunch of crooks they are.
Tony.
I was under recommend that we write it off.
Yeah, thank you. All right.
Just a point of clarification, could I respectfully point out to Councillor Jennings that he pays his rent to Cornwall Housing Limited? Not
So
necessarily Cornwall Housing.
Who takes my 24 pence then?
Cornwall Housing Limited. I don't want to extend the argument. But
Yeah.
They're charging for grounds maintenance.
I'll give you 24p to end this conversation now.
I'll pay for
Right, I'm going to second Tony's proposal. All in favour?
Did you want to?
Oh, sorry, did you have a question?
Just one question.
Yes.
I think there's an inevitability about this because of accounting periods and everything like that.
Yeah.
Are we absolutely certain of our accounting practices going forward that we can never be in this situation again? Because for me, that is the critical thing. It's unfortunate. And people come, people go, accrual systems come and go. But what we can't be is in this position in the future.
Right. From the internal auditor, the RFO now has a robust system in place for all CC invoice payments and is up to date with all invoices for grass cutting. I'm assured by the chair of F&E and the clerk it won't happen again.
Well, I just find it very strange that a public group, I speak about Cornwall Council, don't pay their debts. I'm saying nothing else. It's not right, it's not proper, and they've got enough people in their offices to spot the mistakes, and they didn't. And I think that is scandalous. Enough said.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with anything you've said.
Did you complete the vote?
We were about to, yes. All in favour? Against? Abstain?
Could I please have a note?
That you abstained?
Because I'm a dual-hatted councillor, I think.
I was assuming that. Okay. Now we get on to number 10, to receive a report from Future Coast Bude to consider the repositioning of the beach huts at... I wanted to question that, sorry. It's the beach huts at Summerleys we're talking about repositioning, isn't it?
Yes.
That was in the brief you gave last week?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's...
Actually, I'm not asking you to do this, here, I'm saying I would have to give a public consultation.
Yeah. All right, yeah, so I'll consider the repositioning of beach huts at Summerleys and the Town Council owned stretch of the southwest coast path on Summerleys Down and to approve any associated actions. So a lot of us were in a briefing on this last week. For those of us that weren't, what we're effectively being asked tonight is not to approve, to give them permission to do this, is to give them permission to go to the public and ask for them to give their thoughts on it. That's correct, isn't it, Helen? I think. Yeah.
Can I start? I feel slightly nervous about this. In so much as I think there's an assumption being made, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that this will be allowed under permitted development. And I'm not entirely sure that's true. What the email actually says is it could be allowed under permitted development. Now, what we know as a council, because we've had to deal with this, how difficult it is to do anything related to the Downs. how awkward it is. You've got environmental surveys to carry out. We've looked in this previously as a previous council. We looked at at moving the path, and in the end, it was just going to be impossible because the cost involved in it and the complexity of doing it, because of the regulations involved, because it was the downs, was why we didn't do it. What I'm slightly nervous about this is there's an assumption being made that we are automatically, so we're going to go to public consultation, ask them what they think, go through all of that, which is going to be difficult, I think, without knowing actually it can be done. And I think what we've got to be careful here is that we're not putting the cart before the horse. I would like to know whether this would be supported by planning first, or at least in principle, before we start talking to anybody about it. Because if the planners won't agree, it's irrelevant.
I think,
and I'm not sure, because like I say, I've read the emails, and what the planning officer actually said is this could be allowed under permitted development. Doesn't say it will be, but it could be. And I'd like a little bit more assurance on that before we start spending time, effort and energy talking to the public about something that might not happen, because we don't get planning permission for it.
well,
And again, that's about management.
Pre-app has been put in, hasn't it?
And that's been approved?
Yes. That's the.
On this basis, as it stands?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we could, the concern that we could end up finding ourselves very much like Poundstock Parish Church, where bang, they just turn up in diggers.
Yeah, and just do it.
And just do it. It is not unfounded, I would say.
Okay, all right, fair enough then.
I think, Peter, you wanted to...
If I may, because I was so distressed about what had happened at Widmouth car park, albeit, as you correctly point out, not under future code, but I believe, I'm guessing, but I'm presuming it was making space for sand. Perhaps Helen would nod if that's correct. She is. That I contacted the planning officers and said, can I see the planning application for this? And what happened? And I was told by planning officers that permitted development rights apparently are very different for councils building stuff on their own land. We're apparently allowed to do a lot of stuff without necessarily needing to apply for planning permission. And I believe that's what happened to Widmouth. Right. Now, I need to be very careful what I say, because I don't want to make any statements of fact here. I'll just tell you what I believe to be the case. But I believe that the car park at Widmouth was dug up without any planning permission. And I believe also potentially that they may not have had to do the same level of rigour in environmental and biological testing that we were put through in order to make the application for our skate park, which did lead me to believe or wonder whether or not actually we could have used those permitted development rights to build our own skate parks. Yeah. And I think actually maybe we could have done, and we just didn't know that we could have done that, but that's by the by. Personally, I think this has got disaster written all over it. I think we would have an outcry of public opinion in Bude if we were to start fiddling around with that path. I don't think we should move it until we absolutely have to. If we can do it under permitted development, having the plan in place and the method in place, we can just deploy it when we have to. So that would be my position on it, and I wouldn't want us to go to the public at this point.
Yeah, quite right.
Kevin?
As people around the table might expect, I come from it from a different angle. I believe that the conversation cannot take place early enough. I think that potentially many people are doing an ostrich impression and hiding their head quite literally in the sand over this stuff. And any conversation that we can have, any raising awareness of the need to make adaptations that we can undertake is a good thing. Now, whether the public say yes to moving the beach huts or yes to moving the path, that's a slightly different thing. I'm not entirely convinced that moving the path would be the greatest idea. I'm somewhat of the opinion that Future Coast Bude want to do it because it's a nice, discreet little project that can be done in a short time scale and get some of the money spent and leave a bit of a legacy. And maybe that isn't entirely a bad thing. But I'm not as fussed about the actual project as I am about the conversation taking place. And I come back to the point that I was making earlier on in this meeting. It isn't that this council needs to be consulted per se about what goes on out at Woodmouth in another parish, but it'd be nice to know. It would be nice to join the dots up, and it would be nice to understand how these things were working together or not working together, because we're fighting against climate skepticism. We're fighting against the inertia of people who like things as they are and don't want change. And we're trying, in my opinion, or should be trying, to nudge public opinion towards the idea of mitigating known changes in sea level and making adaptations for known problems which are going to come, almost certainly going to come down the line. And that's what Future Coast Bude should all be about. And that's why I think all of these ideas going towards the public are positive. But because of what's happened in the past with Bude Climate Partnership and others, we are facing a huge degree of scepticism. And we are also facing this crazy silo thinking where projects are popping up independently of other projects and the whole thing is not joined up. So I'm minded to vote for this to go to public consultation, but I'm telling Future Coast Bude that consultation is going to be more difficult because of what's happened in the past and what is currently happening out of Woodmouth now.
Yeah. So Vicky, then Tony.
First off, I was really horrified to realise that there was actually no consultation with Poundstock Parish Council.
Can I just, there's no formal decision, but there was consultation.
Yeah, I'll come back on that.
Right, okay. Well, the impression I was given was that there was no consultation, and I would have thought something like this, it would have been useful to have had all the Poundstock councillors on board with it. I did a very quick straw poll of people I know in Widmouth today, and there was very, very limited consultation with any of the residents. And as one of the residents pointed out to me, it's Cornwall Council doing it. Oh, and guess what? Make Space for Sound are also paid for by Cornwall Council. So I'm with Peter on a lot of this, but I also think that the public do need to be consulted because those downs are very, very precious to the people of Bude. As everybody knows with the attempt for the cycle path.
Tony.
Okay, so just thinking about all of those comments for a second, and just I don't want to get involved in the conversation with Woodmouth because I think it's just a confusing issue. We need to deal with what's in front of us. I'm very much with Kevin. I think we've got to see this. Right? We've got to take this as a positive thing. Right? We as a council need to be proactive, and we need to be not pushing back against opportunities to develop a better community and a more sustainable community. It's really important that we do that. It's very difficult for us as a council to make an argument about coastal adaptation when we've just spent a fortune moving the storm tower for exactly that reason. Right, so we accept as a council, I'd like to think, that coastal change is happening. Right, we know that. We've just spent, I don't know how much it was moving that storm tower in the end, but I don't want to go through it. But that was exactly the reason for it. Okay, and that you know, it was important to the town in exactly the same way as the downs are important to the town. Now we can do two things. We can say, well, we'll wait until it's almost too late to do something about it. But then at that point, we've got to find the money and the wherewithal to do it. And that may be too late. Because the truth is, as we did with the storm tower, we were operating on a knife edge, hoping it was going to disappear over the edge at the same time as we were trying to actually it. And I wouldn't want to be in the same position with the path on the downs, where effectively the path was closed, because effectively the cliff top is corroding away below it, and effectively nobody's got any access. So we've got an opportunity with Future Coast Bude to respond to inevitable climate change in a proactive way and adapt our coastline, because that's what it's about, to make it usable for the future and for future generations, not for us, not about us. It's about the children of today and what they're going to be left with. Because it's easy for us to sit here and say, well, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, whatever. We're not talking about that. We're talking about 30 years' time, talking about 50 years' time. When none of us will be sat here, and the young people that are involved in the youth board of Future Coast Bude, it will be their town. When you speak to them, when you engage with them, they're the ones who really want this stuff to happen. They're the ones who are really going to be driving these sort of projects forward. And I think we have a responsibility to them to think about this in a really positive way and do what we can. My suggestion is that what we should be doing as a council is thinking really hard about setting up, and again, I don't want to use the word working group, but I can't think of another one for now, whatever you want to call it, right? But there needs to be a discrete group of councillors to properly engage with Future Coast Bude, so we're not in a situation where we're half informed about stuff and it's Chinese whispers. We think that something's going on and we know that somewhere, what we should have is a core of councillors who are properly engaged with Future Coast Bude that report back to this council. Because what I fear at the moment is there's more and more responsibility being given to council officers to deal with this stuff without our knowledge. And then what's happening, it's coming out to us at meetings like this when we don't really have the opportunity appropriately to really understand what's going on. And this is not the right place to enable those in-depth discussions that we actually need to do it in. And I would suggest that we, again, a committee, whichever one it is, needs to take some form of responsibility for engagement with Future Coast Bude, and then they need to set up a discrete group to manage that collectively, and that needs to be agreed and arranged. Because this is, we're going to have this for another year. Right, so there's all sorts of, as you quite rightly said, Kevin, there's lots of different elements to this that needs to be collectively understood as a council, and we need to be engaged with it a bit more proactively than we are at the moment. And that's what I would like to see personally.
Okay. Tom?
Yeah, just to address Councillor Herbert Coulson, I wasn't involved myself, but there was quite a bit of informal consultation went on. The chair of the parish council was very much involved with it, but the parish council wasn't formally consulted, but there was opportunities and for local residents and everybody else to engage if they wanted. There was, and I have to say, note that there, as somebody who keeps an eye on, like to think that I keep my ear to the ground, etc. I haven't detected an outcry from Widnet to what's going on. I'd have to say, so I can't see that. But on a broader point, and without getting too political about it, planning, and I don't mean planning applications necessarily, but planning for the future needs to be inclusive and stretch beyond parish and town boundaries, and there, I think it's possibly a theme I've mentioned once or twice in the past, and I agree. I'm not kind of an expert on social change. Yeah, but of course, sorry. But you could be. I could be, I suppose. I wasn't, as I say, I wasn't involved in the consultation. I was probably too busy with stuff like Lord's Court and but yeah, so yeah, that's all I got to say. There was, to be fair, there was consultation went on, and there isn't that outcry from Whitman.
Okay, sorry, Paul, Ricky.
Yeah, all I was going to say with forward planning is there's no reason why the council cannot go down that road, set aside money, and the potter's money is there. So when the path crumbles into the sea, off you go. Next week, you can build a new path inside. But, it does need planning, but you've got to set it aside. You can't, if you start doing this now, the locals will go, get out of here, what a waste of bloody money. Yeah. If I may use the French phrase. That's all I'm concerned about.
Okay. Sorry, Vicky, and I think Peter then, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in response to talking about a working group, informally, it was agreed that we would have briefings, and I feel that the briefings, where as many councillors as possible have got a chance to sit on, would actually possibly be better than the working group.
Yeah, I found last week's briefing very useful.
Yeah, because it gave us a chance for all of us to air our opinions as we were there and outside of the public view.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, Peter.
Yeah, thanks. I shouldn't do this, but seeing as you're allowing people to respond, I will respond to it. But I want to talk very briefly about the principle of some of the positions that Councillor Cole is taking here. Now, I don't think anyone around the table would want to be labelled a climate change denier, but just saying everything is fantastic and you should do it, and if you don't agree with it, then you're against the future generations. I don't think that's quite right. I think we do have to make preparations, but we have to make sensible preparations. And being seen to give up too early on what makes Bude, I think, could be counterproductive, as Councillor Tilsley points out. People are going to say, yeah, well, they'll be turned off and they'll go in a very different direction. And we know this is a hearts and mind issue. You know, if we are to learn from some of the lessons, the hard lessons, very hard lessons from the fallout of Bude Climate Partnership, we need to really think carefully about what we're doing here. I want to say to Councillor Gibbs that comparing Compass Point to the pathway on the Downs is a little bit disingenuous. It's a grade 2 listed structure.
It was a stretch.
It takes a year to move, and if it goes off the edge, we've lost it for good.
Yeah, it
the
wasn't about
footpath can be moved in a week. Let's be honest. You send a mini digger in and lay it down. It's not the same thing.
Right. It's the principle.
No, the principle isn't it? Right. Planning for the future, as Councillor Tilsley again said, is absolutely fine, and we should do it. And I think this is great. What the work that's been done here is fabulous, but we don't need to deploy it yet. And I think if we went out to consultation, and especially one of these consultations where we have a whole load of people in, we show them what's on the board, 90% of people say, I really don't want that to happen, then you go ahead and do it anyway because you've done the consultation. That would be madness, and we should never do it. So, in my opinion, I want to value the planning, think that's absolutely wonderful. The fact that we've got a methodology laid out, the fact that we know that we can do it with permitted development, absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. If we could put some money in the bank to put aside for a rainy day when we need to do it, even better. I doubt that could happen, but that would be a good way of doing things. And I just sense that going to a consultation at this point, which is what we're being asked to do, is not the right thing for us to do.
It's going to be Peter, Kevin, Tony.
Yeah, I was going to be, probably people know I'm not that in favour of public consultations because I think we're democratically elected to make decisions, and that should be that. However, we are where we are, and that's the way of things these days. I think the two options that are proposed, or potentially proposed, fall short of what is actually necessary on some of these downs. The two areas of vulnerability haven't been covered by the two options that are put forward. And I think perhaps if it's going to go to public consultation, it should say something along the lines of, are you in favour of the realignment of the path between the end of Summary's Crescent and the Crooklets Beach huts? And that if people are in favour of that, then it can be done, and the whole path can be re-landscaped and, you know, made nice. I think what's been proposed isn't really enough, to be quite honest. The existing path isn't wide enough for today's traffic. It was fine 20, 30 years ago, but there's erosion. The width of it isn't enough, so people are always walking on the grass and wearing it out. It's not wide enough, so it needs to be better. And a resin finish would probably look a lot better than the tarmac that's there at the moment. You know, there are positives to be had from this, and it shouldn't be just knocked, you know, or dismissed, shall we say. But I think it could be improvements, no disrespect. I'm happy to get involved if you want more to.
The comments you just made are just the perfect style of comments that we need.
Okay.
And that's, if you don't talk to the public, we won't get those comments. And to be honest, if you don't talk to the public, we will listen to the consultation. If the public, 90% of them say, we don't want it, we won't do it. But if we don't talk to the public about it, we won't do it at all.
Well, just before I finish,
And you can't keep my money. Not my money. You can't keep future investment your money beyond March 27, so you can't put it in your bank and spend it. That's not great.
I was going to say, for those who don't know, I did work for this authority for about 20 years, and I do know a couple of bits that have changed that other people may not notice as much as I do because of working. So I'm happy to share those areas with you.
Yeah, that's the consultation is exactly what we need.
Right, Kevin.
Yeah, I think Councillor Roy slightly misunderstood my position. My position is I am less bothered about the actual projects and more bothered that consultation takes place. And I think it's a good thing for us to show leadership. I'm all for leadership. I'm all for conviction politics. I'm probably one of the most convicted politicians around this table. But there will be times
Too much time, Kevin.
Yeah.
There will be times when we really aren't the people to be making the decisions. The good people of Bude are the people to be inputting into this and having the consultation and asking them, do you want money spent, future coast money that isn't going to be raised through your council tax and your precept? Do you want it spent on this, or would you rather it wasn't? Would you rather it went somewhere else? Because the money's going to disappear. I mean, I was being a little bit nasty when I said this is a nice little discrete project that's deliverable within the time frame. But if you don't have nice little discrete projects deliverable in the time frame, the money doesn't all get spent and the money gets hoovered up and goes elsewhere. So asking the people of Bude what they think about it, asking the people of Bude whether external money could be spent on this and maybe make things a little bit better, I don't think we've got anything to fear from that. And if the overall reaction is we don't want it, spend your money elsewhere, so be it. But I doubt if it will be that.
It's pretty much what it was on the big consultation on the Downs of the skate park when you were the champion of don't touch a blade of grass, Kevin.
That was a different iteration of it.
Yeah, I remember the legendary Kevin Can't Kickflip campaign on local social media. But yeah, that aside, did you not? Were you not around for that one? It was brilliant. It was him against the mayor of Hoseley, ex-mayor of Hoseley. Sorry.
Just to try and move this on a bit, I suppose, really. In relation to the principle of the consultation, I, as a councillor, would really like to know what our community, what they think about this. I've got my own opinion. We've all got our own opinions. I agree that we're democratically elected. However, we are demonstrating leadership by being prepared to talk to our community about what they want. That's part of what we do. Because my opinion, is an opinion. It's no more than that, and it's no less than that, and it's the same as the rest of us. These are really important topics that we're talking about here. These go to the heart and soul of what Bude is. It's very much as Peter's just described. The Downs are really important to our community, and I'd really like to know what they think about it. And I agree. I think we should be asking the question. It should be posed in exactly the way that you've described. Where the money's coming from, what it's part of, right, and what it means if we do it or don't do it. Right, and that's the point. Right, and it needs to be framed in those terms. And then I want to hear whether the community want to do it or not. If they say we don't want to do it, then we don't do it. I haven't got a problem with that. If they say we are going to do it, well, fine. Then we've got the money and we've got the wherewithal to do it. What I don't want to do is be in a position where we don't ask the question, and then in 4 years' time, people turn around and say, "Why haven't you done it?" Well, because we haven't got the money or we haven't got the capability. If we know today that they don't want it today, but they do want it when it becomes necessary, then we can plan for that and say, right, as a council, what's that going to cost us? Like that will in 10 years' time or in 5 years' time, it's going to cost us this amount of money. We then make that strategic planning decision in order to do it. But we don't know unless we ask. And I really do think we should be taking the opportunity to ask the question properly.
I've got no issue going back and asking them. But I'm 99% certain we already asked.
But not in this format, though, was it?
1,800 people responded, and it was like 86% said, no, don't stick a path up through there. It was going to be a cycle path. It's a path. Yeah. So
the people will cycle on.
Yeah. I mean, I remember commenting in the media at the time when people said, have bikes on the Downs. Jesus Christ, I've always rode my bike across the Downs. I remember you being shouted at by a member of the public for riding your bike across the Downs. But yeah, I'm like you. If we want to rephrase the question to make it specific to this, I've not got much of an issue with it. I think we'll probably get the same response. Possibly not, but who knows?
Katie was first.
Yeah.
I think for me personally, if it's an and/or beach huts or path, I would go path. I walk along it regularly, and there are places where you are pretty close to the edge, and the coastal path is really important for tourists and visitors. Without a suitable coastal path, walking through Bude, that's one of the reasons people come here. I think it has to go to consultation. I think we need to get the public on board with this. We need to, show them that we're on board with all of this as well, and that we believe in it. And then I also think it's really important, and I know that we've got the youth board there, to make sure that when that consultation goes out, that we are reaching 20% of our population, which is the up to 24-year-olds. That's 20% of our population that we need to start listening to a little bit more than we are now. And they are going to be the ones that this is going to affect. And I think we need to make sure that when this goes to consultation, they really are asked the same questions. What is it that you want? They see the world very differently to how we do, and it's really important that they have just as much, if not more, say than,
we did get we did get a large response from that demographic in the last one. It was 1,800, over 1,800 people responded. We still got all of that stuff. Yeah. So we did reach them last time. All right, some of them probably grown up slightly now. I'm just slightly concerned when you say we have to show them that we're on board with this. That predetermines our position.
No, I didn't mean on board with this specifically. I mean on board with working together with outside groups and not imagining that it's past experiences.
Right, okay.
We don't believe that we're going the same direction as past experiences. I don't need to go into all detail. I'm talking about, I don't mean we've already decided what we want, because I haven't and none of us have. What I'm saying is we know we're not going down the same path as we were before.
Yeah.
It's no good us worrying that we're going to end up in the same situation.
Oh yeah,
We're scared that, oh my God, we need to stay back because the same thing might happen. We need to be confident in those things, and that will make the public just as confident to be on this journey with us.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you need to worry about the kids. The kids ride their bikes across the downs. They generally do it on the grass. The people that need a tarmac path are the exact opposite end of the spectrum. The coastal path through Cornwall is not tarmac. Some of the best parts of the coastal path between here and Widmouth, So it's the people that need the extra assistance that will benefit from the path, not the young and healthy.
Very
Looking at you, Tills.
Very simplistically, we're going to be damned if we do, damned if we don't do the consultation. I'd much rather be damned for having the consultation, making sure that we ask the right questions, making sure that we are very clear about what is the intention and what isn't the intention. But I would respectfully suggest we move to taking a vote on whether we do or we don't.
Right, we need a proposal to vote on.
I've got a question.
Me too.
All right.
Me too.
All right.
Well, it's very quick, because you mentioned it, and being aware of the South Coast, the UK coastal path having now been adopted and as a whole entity and being government funded, is this stretched part of the South West Coast Path?
Yes.
Right, so if it is part of the South West Coast Path, is it not then part of the government's scheme to protect that? Because it literally just opened.
Nice idea, but
what's the difference between the coastal path here and the coastal path elsewhere? If it's, but I don't understand. I mean,
it's not a right of way, so it's not covered by that legislation, but it is a national trail.
Right.
So we have to consult Cornwall Council and Trade Access about any changes to it, but it's not a.
So it's not treated in the same way as other elements of the whole of the UK coastal path.
if the path comes into the sea, they will move the path inland.
Like they have at Widmouth.
I'm going to be quiet because I don't understand. All I've been told is we don't have to go through the statutory process of moving a public right of way to make any to realign it.
Because it has to be there.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. Fine.
Okay.
You're going to do a consultation. Who's going to decide on the questions? Because every time I read a consultation, the questions are that loaded in the favour of whoever wants them done that it's pointless doing it.
Yeah, do you want to go?
It's the youth board are co-designing the consultation.
But it usually says things like, how wide would you want the path? It's not a question saying, no, I don't want the path. They're just telling you which box you can tick of how you want the path. There's never a no.
I hear what you say, But I've also heard what Mayor said about previous consultations, so I think we need to make sure we answer that question, because otherwise you won't be informed when you come to make the decision.
I think we've already got our answer.
When we did the consultation, one of the answers was a very clear, no, we don't want you to do anything.
And that
came massively.
Yeah. And it'll be the same again.
Yeah, it was.
I think.
80%.
In all honesty, I think we're just wasting our time.
Please do the skate park, leave everything else alone. 1,800 people voted, 1,500 plus voted for please don't touch the downs. And that, like I say, there was a hell of a lot of kids involved because we checked the ages, we made sure we hit youth groups and everyone. It was a very comprehensive piece of work. And no was definitely there for people to tick.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the whole concept of public consultation. Of course, it doesn't have to be a survey, and public consultation takes many forms. For example, meet the councillor sessions, and also, of course, public consultation and surveys are not referendums. And I hear Councillor Moore's point there that we're elected to make decisions. He's inadvertently quoting Edmund Burke, MP for Bristol in the late 18th century, who did say this. But on the other hand, and I can only speak from my own experience of the Lord's Court consultation, if it could be called that. On a one-to-one basis, and of course there was a survey there as well. But the point was made several times that you do a public consultation, and there's several questions, and it's not a referendum, but councillors then make up their minds on the basis of what they feel themselves, but also take into account how some of the things just end up not being feasible. That was possibly the thing with Lord's Court. It just, to me, in the end, it just wasn't feasible to pursue a particular course of action. So, but it does. So I think that public consultation is probably something we should be doing all the time anyhow. If we're doing our job properly, we are in touch with the and you can have loaded questions. That's why it's conversations, you get a feel rather than the answers to particular questions that others have set.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just to reassure you, Councillor Jennings, regardless if Future Coast Bude go out and do this consultation, they still can't do anything on the downs without us.
I realise that.
Yeah. So it regardless of if they do, I'm not suggesting that you will, but to assume that they did load the question and they got the result they want, they've still got to come and ask us.
I realise all that.
Okay.
I've seen these things before, and the questions are, what colour would you like the path? Not, do you want the path or not? It's just, you ask me what colour you want there.
Yeah. Right, so Paul.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, if the cliff fell in yesterday and the path disappeared tomorrow, type of thing, the local people would have expected that the council had discussed it prior to that, and they knew what was going to happen, and they got Plan B is ready to go into operation straight away. Yeah, so just discussing this, it's fine, because we are looking at Plan B.
It's really important, I think, if you're going to go out to a consultation, you make it absolutely clear to the people you're consulting with that is an independent thing, and it's not the views of the council, because they will perceive it that the council are backing it. So that's one of the things.
This is one of the dangers, yeah.
And also, I think it's not clear to me at the moment what are the best ways to go, because the gentleman down there suggested made some really good suggestions. We've probably I've never heard of those before. So there needs to be some group chats going on about what people might like and what they might want to vote on.
Yeah.
And also, if you do need some volunteers, I'm happy to join in.
Yeah, I think there's enough of us around the table that have we're here for the triangle, for example. where a suggestion was made, would you like this? And as you've just said, it instantly in the minds of all the public became the council are doing this. It wasn't, nobody saw it as, how about this? Here's an idea. Do you like it? Everybody went, Jesus Christ. And we ended up with demonstrations outside and a councillor was setting up a group to campaign to stop it. So it needs, it needs to be done. It needs to be handled with care. Yeah.
If I could, as being the instigator of that, and having learned a lot of really hard lessons relating to that.
So I want to
You're quite right. No, because I'll take that on the chin, because I think you're absolutely right. I think that how these things are presented are really important, right? Because the way that you do it and demonstrating a lack of predetermination is really important.
Yeah.
The way those things are phrased and the type of questions you ask are significant. And I think we've all around the table, one form or another, been touched by that. And I think that's what we were saying. So thanks very much for leading me back to that, because that was the point I was making quite some time ago. I believe that it would be beneficial for us as a council to have a small group set up supporting Future Ghost View, using the experience that we've got to ensure that if we're going to do a consultation, it's done in the manner which we believe is right. Because if in the end we're going to own it, like one way or the other, we're going to own it. But the decision, I think it's really important for us to be engaged with it at an appropriate level with the right people right at the start, if we're going to do it. And so I'll go back to my original point about a committee effectively being responsible for this piece of work, with a subgroup of that committee working with Future Ghost View to make that happen.
Yeah, I just want to ask Helen whether any of this information will be available for the public at the community conversation on the 23rd of April.
So on the 23rd of April, there is a community conversation happening. That's the beginning of the conversation, and that conversation will be very much about coastal change, coastal processes, because we've learned from the survey that people feel they don't understand, and therefore we're asking them to make decisions. What is it they need to understand? So the first session is very much about building people's understanding. The event on the 9th of May will include this information. And I've offered to do briefing sessions, so I'm very happy to do a briefing session before the 9th of May, probably after the 23rd, somewhere in the middle, which is, this is the way we propose to do the consultation on the 9th of May. What do you think? Would that be of use?
Yeah, definitely.
Or a little working group to work with us on it. I don't know. Either of those we're happy to work with, because we are very keen on testing this idea of co-design and co-design. So we're doing it very much with the young people. So to bring some results on that co-design process is not a problem.
Right.
You're talking about the 9th of May?
Councillor Jennings.
Yes.
Wait, what's a Saturday?
Yes. You can do consultation on Saturdays. It isn't allowed.
Could we have it in the pub?
Actually, I'm going to let her carry on. Yeah. I was going to stop you, but yeah, carry on. No, all right, Kevin, and then I think we do need to make some kind. Sorry, Andy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really simple what we've got to decide tonight, and it's basically, do we want Future Coast View to have this as part of the conversation they have with the people of Bude? It's not about the type of survey or the nature of the consultation, because that can come later. All they need to know tonight is, are we okay with them talking to the people of Bude about these two specific things? And I think there's enough consensus around the table that we can say yes to that, and then move on into the nitty-gritty at a slightly later stage.
That proposal.
Yeah. That's very good, Kevin.
You did want to say something before we got.
I know. Well, Paul was asking as well.
Yeah. Two people that had their hands up before we had it seconded can go.
Right. Okay. So it looks like I might have the last word. Yes. Almost. Right. So both of the routes which are proposed, I don't think are, as the Councillor Moore said, if you're going to do this job, they're probably not sufficient to really address the job properly. So I would really encourage you to look at some more options on the routing. And the other thing is that you're proposing an absolutely definite pathway. And I have to say, I'm absolutely against the use of plastics in this environment, and that we should be doing everything we can to try and find a product or a finish of the pathway which would be more appropriate and more respectful to that environment. But I'm sure that would come out in your survey.
Yeah, all of those things, the type of survey, the location.
Yeah.
It's always, sometimes it's easier
to
to
stimulate.
put something out there for somebody to say,
Yeah.
actually not that bit, but this bit.
That's fine.
It helps people,
It's
so that's fine.
stimulates conversation.
Yeah.
Quickly.
I did say the other night, you don't move that path any closer to the cricket pitch, somebody will get killed.
Yeah, right, okay, let's vote.
Thank you, Gary Silvers.
Do you want to just briefly summarise so everybody knows what we're voting on?
I am proposing that these two specific subjects, as noted on our agenda paper, are allowed to be talked about by Future Coast Bude, and they will come back to us and explain exactly how they intend to do the consultation at a later date.
Okay, everybody happy? They know what we're voting on? Okay, all in favour? Against?
Am I going to be limited? Only because it's limited to the two, because I think there should be more options.
Okay. Abstain? Okay.
It was a bit generic, I think.
You know, it wasn't the specific proposals, it was the broad subject of moving the path to the beach house.
Can they go to the public and ask, do you want us to move the path? We can argue about its exact route later. Yeah, right, that's done. So, curveball. You've all got your hands up, preempting me. I might change the order of the agenda now. Discuss repairs to the Bude-Stratton Town Council cherry picker and agree any associated actions. Right.
Didn't do the beach house.
I thought that was all part of the same.
All part of the same
thing.
presentation.
Can they go and ask the public about those two topics?
Say the two.
Would that have changed your, not that it would change the outcome, but would it have changed your vote?
Yeah.
It's just we spent 99 points.
No, I'm saying
about 50% of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do the cherry picker now.
May I?
You may.
Would you consider moving it into closed session, given that we're going to have a closed session anyway? Given that it's...
I was personally thinking we need to defer it in lieu of having more information to make a better informed decision.
My reason was because it pertains to a quote that's been given.
Yeah.
I don't feel that...
We probably shouldn't be discussing it in public. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I'm happy to take it on later, but...
I mean, there has been through the chair, there has been an email exchange that a few of us have been involved with, and I suggested that it go to F&E at the next F&E meeting, which is a couple of weeks away, so that more options and more information can be looked at there.
Is that a proposal?
That is, well, unless...
No, I was going to say exactly the same thing. Yeah, I'll second it. I mean, all I was going to say, just before we do that, I'm surprised that as a full council we're being presented this before it's been to the appropriate committee in the first place. What we'd expect it is for the appropriate committee to be scrutinising this and then providing us as a full council with a recommendation, some options. So it's rather disappointing to then be presented this as almost like complete on the evening, then with these email exchanges going on, which again I've not entirely either prior to the meeting. So I'd agree with that. I'd second exactly what Kevin's just said.
We're going to vote to move this into the Facilities and Environment Committee. All in favour? Against? Abstain? Gone. Good. Right. I suspect.
There's one little point now. Should they not been on top of this already?
Kevin, why weren't you on top of this?
Yeah, exactly.
I believe that's.
Why didn't he know about it?
I did know that cherry picker was out of action. I wasn't aware of the exact proposals that were being made, and that is one of the reasons why I want to discuss it further in F&E.
All right, that's cool. Let's leave it there. Right, I suspect this is going the same way, maybe a different committee, to discuss the provision of a new lift at the Castle Heritage Centre and agree any associated action.
It's a ludicrous amount.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to give exactly the same as what's just happened, and I think that there's not enough information here, and I would like to take it to CNH.
Yeah. Right, seconded. All in favour? Yeah. Against? Abstain?
Could I just ask, will these decisions then come back to full council to be rubber stamped?
Yeah, that's how committees.
Right, yeah, I was just double checking.
Committees make a recommendation, it comes back to us, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, just double checking.
To receive any items of correspondence from the clerk.
I don't have anything specific, just to remind people about the election that's now going to take place in Bude-Stratton vacancy. 2 candidates have been nominated, so that's going to go ahead on the 30th of April.
Fantastic.
Hope one withdraws, so it'll save some money.
You never know. Right, to note the date of the next meeting, which will be Thursday, the 7th of May, 2026. Okay. To consider passing the following resolution, that in relation to the remaining items on the agenda, publicity would be prejudicial to the public interest by reason of the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, and the press and public are instructed to withdraw. The following items are confidential and the meeting will proceed in closed session. So I propose we move to closed session. Seconded. All in favour? Against? Abstain? Did I a closed session day, councillors?
No, just put your hand up and say I'm back.
All right. I'm counting that as a vote. Yeah, that's what I saw. Thank you very much for coming along. Cheers.